What a privilege this is to sit together with you.
All right.
Black History Month.
Yes.
And to celebrate the giftedness that we know comes from God.
Amen.
Please give us your names, kind sir.
David Paul Johnson.
Wow. Do we have any relationship?
I don't think so.
I think we're brothers. But that's another discussion, another time.
I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Well, it's a privilege to be here with you and as we celebrate Black History Month. And so I'd like to start off by just asking you to tell us about your gift.
My gift is, well, it's ironic to say my gift because it's really God's gift to me that he put in me. And I think that was part of the process of coming to that realization that many times the approach of people is it's my gift. It's this is me. When I'm up on stage, this is me performing. When in essence, this is what God is giving you. Now you work on it and you perfect it. And that was part of, I would say, I don't know if struggle is the right word. There were certain things that it seemed like the Lord would not allow me to do, or even when I tried to approach it, it would be like a strong backlash to me. And that is whenever I would think about using my gift to increase my popularity.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Or if I was fantasizing about performing whatever, it just seemed like it was almost like I was being held down, like, stop, no, don't do that. And then there was times where he let me do it, and it always seemed like I would run right into a wall. So, and there was times when, even back in the day with the Mass Choir, when we would be performing, I remember one particular time, I believe it was the Clark Sisters, was
at the same performance. I think we were at the Meyer Hall for the lyric.
It might have been the lyric.
Okay.
And one of the people that was there was telling the Clark Sisters, "Oh, you got to hear him play." And all of a sudden, my head started. Now I'm a young guy, and
how old were you then?
I was about 58. No. I was about, I'm thinking 17.
Okay.
17, maybe 16, 17.
Okay.
But for her, for this woman to say that to, I believe it was Twinkie Clark.
Okay.
I believe it was.
Okay.
And then so Twinkie looked at me like, okay, I'm gonna be listening. And it was like, in my head, this is my moment. This is my moment. And I bombed. and again, that seemed to be consistent. And it wasn't like I froze. That wasn't it. Because I was confident in what I was doing. But the piano that I got to play on, the piano that I was playing on, it just malfunctioned. It wouldn't work right. I was hitting notes, the notes would go down, wouldn't come up, the pedals wouldn't work. And it took a number of years for me to finally get it, that God is saying, this is not to be used for you, it's for God's glory.
Wow.
So a lot of times, people will say, you're always giving God the glory, you're always giving God the glory. Yeah, it wasn't, this was where he directed me. It wasn't not just me. It was like, it was a lesson learned. Like, okay, at some point I was like, okay, I got it. I'm not gonna do this.
Humility.
Yes, exactly.
Do you think you got that honest from anyone that you know?
Yes, I got it from my dad. Definitely got it from my dad. He was very gifted, very humble. I like to refer to him as a quiet giant.
Wow.
Because he didn't he wasn't loud and, in your face, even though it seemed that when we got home. But
that was different.
But he was quiet. He had a quiet spirit, but he was strong.
Yes, he was.
He was strong.
Yes, he
so that was modeled for me, and ironically, that was one of the reasons why I didn't really want to play the piano.
Because
I did not want to, how did I put this? I didn't want that to be my path. I wanted to forge my own path. I wanted to go anywhere but music.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. When did you discover your passion for music? How old were you?
Okay, I guess I have to go back to how I started playing in order to get it. Like I said, the times when, part of the reasons why I didn't want to do this was because as a child, I saw Daddy rehearsing with Nathan, you, and Sam.
Yeah.
And that wasn't always a pleasant experience.
Yeah, because he was a disciplinarian.
He was,
And he was an instructor.
Yes.
And he wanted us to get it right.
And sometimes he would get upset when you didn't get it right.
Okay.
So, as a child, I wanted no parts of that. I wanted no parts of it. So most of the times when y'all would go rehearse, I would go running for mother.
Yes, you would.
And I would be hiding behind her because look, that's for them. They can keep doing that. I want no parts of it.
Oh, well, I remember this.
So it wasn't until, I guess I was about the age of either 10 or 11. It was my brother Sam, my cousin Thaddeus and Simeon. They started a group, and they were trying to decide, who's going to be in this group. So it'll be the four of us. It'll be Thaddeus and Simeon, and Sam and myself. So at the time, it's like Sam was taking singing lessons at Peabody. Thaddeus was actually taking guitar lessons. So Thaddeus said, "Look, I'll play the guitar. It's an instrument I like." And like I said, I was probably about 10.
Okay.
And so Sam said, I'll sing, and I want to learn how to play the bass guitar. So I was like, okay. So the only other instruments from what we were seeing that for a total band would be the drums and the piano. There was only two left because at the time it wasn't keyboards. It was just it was just the upright piano. So Simeon said, "We have a piano in our house, so I'll play the piano." And I was like, yes, because I wanted to play the drums.
I never knew that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to play the drums, and like most boys, like banging on stuff. So I wanted to play the drums. So it was set. Simeon plays the piano, Thaddeus plays the guitar, Sam plays the bass, and I play the drums. So I was already getting to Mother and Daddy, telling them I want a drum set for Christmas or my birthday or whatever it was. So then about 2 weeks after we had decided what we was gonna play, Simeon called me on the phone and said, "There's a change of plans. I don't want to play the piano anymore. I'm playing the drums. So that means that you're the youngest. You have to play the piano."
Oh, you are kidding me.
Yeah. I was so mad. I was like, I hate that instrument. I do not want to play it. And I associated with you guys rehearsing and Daddy kind of being hard on you.
Yeah.
I don't want that instrument.
Oh.
So for the longest time, I fought it. I didn't want to. Sam and I would get into arguments and fights because he wanted me to practice. I'm like, I'm not practicing. I don't even like that instrument. It wasn't until I believe it was 1978 or maybe 1979 when First United moved to Route 40.
1978.
Okay, because we had little, I guess quote unquote performances that we played for, and I played the piano, and like I said, I really didn't like it. And if you heard me, you probably could tell I really didn't like it. I had no passion, no nothing. But there was for a convocation of that first year we was at Route 40, there was a young guy who was my age. At the time I was 14. So a few years had passed by. And his name was Timothy Johnson. He was from Connecticut, and he was a phenomenal pianist and organist, to the point that he was drawing eyes from everywhere. So our group, we called our group the United Harmonizers.
I remember that. We attended first year.
Yes, yeah. So we were supposed, it was in convocation, the United Harmonizers were supposed to perform at the children's service while the adults was in the main service. We were in the school building, in the auditorium. And so I went to go on the piano, and Timothy, at this time, everyone knew who Timothy Johnson was. So Sam looked at Timothy Johnson and said, "Can you play for us?" And I was,
your own brother.
Yeah, I was like, "Wait a minute, that's my instrument." Sam was like, "Yeah, but we want him to play for us." So then, I didn't like Sam at that moment. But it's funny, and I think we talked about this before. It's amazing how God can use, He can even use our faults to get us in the right gear.
Absolutely.
I was so jealous of Timothy Johnson because at that moment, I wanted to play the piano. The same instrument that I hated. All of a sudden, it took, the Lord allowed him to come to give me the inspiration to practice. So from that moment on, I decided every day I was going to practice for 2 hours. And I would take a clock, I would put it on the piano, because we had the piano at the house, and I would practice. And that happened for that first summer. I did it through the whole summer. And then I decided that wasn't enough.
Wow.
So I would practice for 4 hours every day. Every day. And I would get in trouble sometimes because during the winter time, the piano was in the garage, and it would be cold. And Mother would say, "You cannot go in that garage." But at that point, I was passionate about it. And it was like I would sneak in the garage, and it wasn't like
she could hear
She could hear me.
Oh my God.
And I would put on gloves, and I would practice.
Wow. And I was married at the time.
You was married, yeah. Right.
So I remember specifically when we were having a rehearsal for our Mass Youth Choir, and Mark Payne was going to be out of town.
Right.
And he said he would arrange for someone to be there.
Right.
And I come in the building, and I hear this piano playing. It blew my mind. I was like, "No, Mark Payne said he wasn't going to be here." And when I went in the auditorium and saw you, my brother, on the piano playing like a professional, I was blown. And I said, "When did you learn how to play?" And you said, "I don't know." I couldn't believe it. And from that point on, you and Mark, and then when Mark wasn't there, you played. And then you became the pianist.
Right. And you mentioned Mark Payne. Mark Payne was the other person that I really looked up to. And to the point where when I started getting older, I had a desire to stay in the church, quote unquote, because it's a good chance I probably would have left. I was at the age where I was like wanting to explore, do my own thing, but I kept saying, because I looked up to Mark Payne so much, it was like, and because I wanted to play like him, I love his style, and I thought to myself, if he can stay in the church, then so can I. So it wasn't. Again, the Lord was putting things in my life to, I would say, safeguard me.
Yes.
Because, and like I said, it wasn't the same thing was as far as fantasizing about using my gift for me. That didn't come from me. It was because of the buffers God was putting. He was
Look
like,
at
no,
that.
you
Look
know,
at that.
this is not what this was. This is not why I gave this to you.
So God was safeguarding his gift
His,
in you.
yes,
And he knew the hedges he had to put around
yes.
you to keep you in a safe place.
Because if he didn't, it wouldn't have been kept in a safe place.
Wow, look at God.
Yeah.
Look at God. And of course, Dad went home to be with the Lord
Yes.
in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the original church pianist
Yes. Uh-huh.
here at New Harvest. And so, because you and he played here,
Right.
when Dad transitioned, then heritage and legacy.
Right.
And you step right on in.
Right.
And it's just amazing how God plans this.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. I think you answered who has inspired you already. What would you say would be your greatest challenge going forward? What is your greatest challenge in order to fulfill this calling that God has on your life?
Wow, that's a really deep question. The greatest challenge, there are many challenges, especially in this day and age, because so much of music is technical.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
in order to really get the most out of what you're trying to do, you really need to have a grip on the technical part of music these days. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges, because I grew up, it's interesting because now a lot of musicians are playing more than one instrument. You know, nephew Isaac,
Yeah.
he plays the bass and he plays the keyboard, he plays the organ
And the drums.
and the drums, and I believe he even dibs a little bit with the guitar.
Okay.
And Jordan, who plays the guitar, she also likes to play around with the drums and even some keyboard stuff and the bass. It's like, but when I grew up, it was like you just picked an instrument and that's where you stayed.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So again, I would say one of the biggest challenges would be keeping up with the tech part of music in the 21st century.
That's incredible. What do you still desire to aspire towards in your musical career or your musical journey? You're a lot older than you were when you started.
Yeah, a lot older.
But yet there's, the probability of years ahead. Do you have any aspiration in terms of your music?
I definitely want to do more recording, to reach the masses, and there's so many different avenues that you can use. Back in the day, you were basically restricted. You had to try to get a record label or whatever. But there's so many different avenues of doing it. Not too long ago, you wanted to cut a CD. There's YouTube. There's so much. There's even TikTok. There's Instagram. There's so many different avenues that you can use. But then at the same time, I don't want to put forth mess. So I don't want to just do it just to do it. I want to do it in a well-rounded, professional way, the way I believe God would want me to do it.
Have you ever had an experience while you were playing, a spiritual encounter while you were playing, that perhaps we would say you were ministering even to yourself?
Many times.
Wow.
Many times.
Can you share?
Wow, there's so many. I can think of one right off the bat. It was actually at my daughter's homegoing service. And I know I wanted to play. I didn't really know what I wanted to play. And the approach for something like that was bigger than playing it flawless or playing in, perfection. because the service meant so much. It was more so from the heart. So the song selection was very important. And I was seeking God, what should I play? And I was led to It Is Well, which was also a similar story from which the creator of that particular hymn, I believe his name was Horatio Spafford, I believe he was. I don't know exactly, I believe he was from the United States. I might be wrong, but his wife and his two daughters, they had sent them overseas for some vacation or whatever. And what happened, somewhere midway in the voyage, the ship had an accident. And in the accident, he lost his two daughters. I believe his wife survived, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. So when he got the telegram, because back then that was the means of communicating, so he got on a ship to head over to where his wife was, I believe. And obviously that would be a trip that no one would ever want to take. When he got to the place where the ship had capsized and where he lost his daughter, he penned the words, "When peace like a river ascendeth my way." To experience such great loss, and then to write, no matter what, it is well with my soul. So for my daughter's homegoing service, it was like, I'm not saying that part of it was well, but it was in my soul.
Wow.
It is well.
Wow.
I know where she is. And I know this is so much bigger than what we are going through or even seeing. So many people was ministered at her service.
Yes, Lord.
People who maybe had shallow relationship with God. I had one guy actually came to me when I returned back to work at UPS at the time and said, I was inspired to live a better life because of your daughter. He said, I thought during the service, if she could live this life in 13 years, and here I am a grown man, I need to live a better life.
Wow. Wow.
So again, it was so much bigger than even what we were going through, that song was perfect. So obviously when I was playing it, I was also playing it to myself and giving glory to God. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I can't think of a better way to really crescendo this is to ask you if you would play that.
Okay.
Play that, and we'll play that in honor of our ancestors, our fathers, our grandparents, and so many family members that have gone on before, because it is well with them. But then for those of us that remain, it is well with my soul. Would you favor us with that?
I certainly will.
All right.
All right.